Blackett. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Just as a matter of note, I will have to leave here about 20 of, so hopefully we'll be done, but if not, I've asked Mr. Kennedy to finish the meeting. Minutes from April 16th, are there any corrections?
Yes, we do have a change for item number BC 2018-237. We're changing the requisition number from 42379 to 42392. And that was for the Department of Information Technology, where they were submitting an RFP exemption and award recommendation to Microsoft Corporation in the amount of $28,551.21.
Thank you. Are there any other corrections
Not at this time, no.
from anybody? Seeing none, I move to approve the minutes with the one correction. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time,
No tabled items?
and no tabled items.
Let's go.
First item is item number BC 2018-246, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to an agreement with DLAJ Inc. for operation of a limited beverage and food service kiosk on the lower level of the Galleria in the Justice Center complex located at 1200 Ontario Street. And it's for the period July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2017, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2022, and for additional revenue in the estimated amount of $103,266.15.
Mike Chambers of Public Works. This item is in the Justice Center, right in the atrium. It's the coffee kiosk, and we're going ahead with the option of the renewal of 5 years. The item is late for a couple of reasons. One, in all honesty, we did lose sight of it. But prior to that, we had to do some electrical work. We were blowing a panel because of the body scanners. We wanted to get all of that fixed. Then we ran into some insurance issues. After both of those were fixed, we kind of lost sight of the item, which is why we're bringing it now. This is our best revenue sharing agreement we have, which is 25%. It brings in about $20,000 a year. So we'd like to continue that. If you recall, one of our most recent ones, we only got 1.5%, so they've agreed to keep it at the 25% commission.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller.
So, in the meantime, have we just been operating under the old contract?
That is correct. They've continued to operate it. It provides a valuable service there in that area. There's a lot of people coming in looking for coffee in the morning. The last time we did go out to bid, they were the only ones that responded to the RFP. They are going to invest another $10,000 into their counters as well, and they were waiting for us to get this agreement finalized before they did that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is going to be amended. It's going to be a two-part item. BC 2018-247A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42353, which will result in an award recommendation to Albert Herman Draperies, Inc. in the amount of $47,727.54, and it's for the purchase of solar shades for the Cleveland Police headquarters located at 1300 Ontario Street, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Matt Reimer representing the Department of Public Works. This item is to replace the window treatments in our build-out of the second and fourth floors of the Cleveland Police Department project for the probation department. This particular product, we're going down the path of an RFP exemption for consideration because we have this product in 4 of our other buildings, specifically Courthouse Square, the Courthouse, the Justice Center, and the Juvenile Justice Center. So it helps us to be able to maintain the same set of hardware and the same type of window systems through consistency across where we have these window treatments. As a result of this process, it has been, as my understanding, posted by the Office of Procurement and Diversity Buyer for 5 days, and there were no further inquiries after that 5-day time period.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
Is Albert Herman the only one that sells this particular product?
Councilman, this particular product, the Eco Shade, yes, but there are competitive, for example, the shades behind you are a different manufacturer, but with a different hardware system than we have maintained throughout the other areas where we have this particular product.
Further questions? Mr. McAleer?
Matt, could you just talk a little bit about, I mean, it's a shade, so talk a little bit about the hardware systems and why it's important to have them be the same?
Only because different manufacturers will have different hardware parts and pieces, and as we then go into the life of maintaining this will be across 2 full floors of the police department. We have them almost now. They will be installed based on approval last in 2017, a project going in the Juvenile Justice Center. We'll have those throughout the JJC. From both what we're installing and what was installed with the original project. So we just have a lot of these in the county inventory now, and being able to maintain one set of hardware or one vendor to support us versus multiple vendors or multiple hardware systems, it benefits maintenance over the life of the product.
Further questions? Councilwoman Baker?
If I may, Councilwoman, just in terms of how many different hardware systems then do we have throughout the county building? Do we have an inventory? I mean, because it seems like we're probably inconsistent throughout the majority of county buildings. And if we're going down this path, it's going to guarantee that this one vendor then for any purchase of new shades will get the work.
Mr. McAleer, I couldn't say, but I'm more than happy to follow on and get that information from our maintenance superintendents and get that back to you, absolutely.
Did you indicate that there was a bid last year, 2017?
We did, in 2017, we did, I believe it was a sole source process that went forward, and it was for the Juvenile Justice Center project, sir.
No bidding for that?
There was the same posting period to confirm that there were no other inquiries, but that's correct. And the justification in that building was we had the same product on the north face of the Juvenile Justice Center building. We were primarily installing this for solar requirements and on the south face, so we wanted to keep the product the same in the building.
Councilwoman Baker?
Thank you. I guess the concern would be, in following up with Trevor, that when you have an RFP exemption and a sole source award, then the Albert Herman Drapery would perhaps feel that they don't need to be competitive, and that if we don't go out for a competitive bid, we don't know whether or not what they're giving us is more or less than what it should be. And I guess there's just some concern that if we continue to go down this road with Albert Herman, that they get comfortable in what it is that they charge us, and we don't follow up with perhaps knowing that there are others out there that could be less. Is that a concern for you at all?
Councilwoman, I think that's always a consideration. I can speak to the conversation the three of us had, Mr. Chambers, myself, and Mr. Pavich, about this same exact topic. There's a balance of obviously wanting to seek the most competitive price and yet have the lowest cost over the sustainment period of any kind of product, whether it be window treatments or anything that you're doing in the facilities arena. That's always a concern. We try and take that very seriously. We work with our partners internal to the administration to make sure we're doing the best thing for the county from a cost perspective, as well as from our making it most efficient on our facilities operation. This was the determination we had with this one. However, we certainly.
Let me add to that,
go ahead,
too.
Michael.
No,
Yeah.
One of the reasons we changed it from sole source, so we didn't give that impression. We wanted to make sure we had consistency within the building, but going forward, if we have another opportunity, it doesn't mean we're going to go with the sole source. We thought going with sole source, as Matt indicated, there are other solutions, but in order to maintain consistency within that building, that was the intent here, but not to give him like a green light that he's the only one we're going to deal with. And hopefully that'll increase the competition and the pricing.
So that I would suggest, it sounds like what you're suggesting, is that you do go out to bid and that you do perhaps lean towards Albert Herman, but always have the opportunity of making sure that he is not taking advantage of the opportunity, and that you have other bidders that perhaps you may consider if they become too relaxed in their bidding of future draperies.
I think that's right, and I think that's why we pulled sole source out of this today, to make sure we didn't give that impression.
comfortable going forward on this one, or do you want to try to hold it?
I'm comfortable because I understand your reasoning. I would just say if you come back to us, I would like to see neither sole source or RFP. And if we do go with Albert Herman again, it's because they were the best and lowest and most reasonable, perhaps in logic, even if they were higher, because of the reasons you gave. But at least we would have some others that we could say we went out and bid, and these are the reasons why Albert Herman. But for today, I understand your reasoning.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll commit to that, absolutely.
Just to chime in here, Tom Pavich with Public Works. These aren't your, I think when we presented last year with juvenile court, these aren't your standard off-the-shelf shades that you pick up from Home Depot or Lowe's. These are custom-made. I think the clutch mechanism is what they call it, that holds the actual shade. It's heavy duty, so it can hold a shade up to 24 pounds. And the actual shade itself has different type of solar inputs and outputs. So they're not, I just want to say that they're not your standard shade that you're going to pick up. They're custom make, for those benefits.
Is there time limit, time urgency on this? I know the whole police headquarters is time, but if we decided to put this off and go for RFP now, would that throw the police headquarters off?
Executive Budish, I believe to do a full RFP now might be time constraining, but we could certainly take on any additional due diligence actions to try and give confidence in the pricing that we received. I say that not knowing the exact path without speaking to our fiscal representatives and probably working with Office of Procurement and Diversity on that, but there could certainly be some time to further justify the pricing.
Mr. McAleer?
Mr. Chair, could it be possible if, and I know they're custom made for the windows, but maybe to hold off to get pricing compared to what it was last year, just to see if there's any increasing in pricing from when we bought it last time? And if there is, potentially do an informal bid where it's out on the streets, say for 2 weeks or so, versus going through the 2 to 3 month process, just to ensure that we're getting the right price.
We can do that, absolutely.
All right, we'll hold this for till the next meeting, if you can get us that kind of information for the next meeting.
Very good. Thank you for your consideration.
everybody. Good. Yeah, Mr. Kennedy.
Anything been ordered yet from this company or delivered?
No, sir. I'll defer to Tom. No, we have not ordered
I'm
any.
not aware of anything. I was kind of hands off this, so
Okay, so we don't have any obligation to actually pay this.
There better not be.
no.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next item.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2018-248, Department of Human Resources. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42477, which will result in an award recommendation to the James B. Oswald Company, doing business as Oswald Companies, in the amount not to exceed $2,500 for consultant services in connection with an Internal Revenue Service appeal. And it's for the period April 23rd, 2018 through August 31st, 2018. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning. Holly Woods, Director of HR for Benefits and Compensation. So this request is requesting this contract to engage Oswald to assist us as indicated to respond to an IRS notice. We received a notice of possible noncompliance with our 1094, 1095 reporting in tax year 2015. That was the first year that 1094, 1095s were required. It was a very complex reporting year, and to some extent still is a very complex process for employers to go through. As a result, we engage a consultant to help us with that reporting. After reviewing the information, we do believe that we were in fact compliant with the regulations. It was a simple error in the 1094 reporting that gave the appearance of possible non-compliance. So we're requesting to engage Oswald to just assist us in responding to that request. Oswald has assisted other clients with a similar issue for this reporting requirement.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller?
Am I correct that this relates to reporting requirement under the Affordable Care Act?
You are correct.
Any other questions?
And
Councilman
are
Miller?
those requirements still in place, or have things changed because of the evolution that has taken place in Washington?
Sure, so the 1095 and 1094 reporting are still required. There's been a lot of changes with what's required, the timing, the percentage of compliance, but we still are required to submit those reports.
So the recently passed national tax legislation doesn't change that, is that correct?
Not at this point in time, we're still required to submit them.
Okay.
There could be some changes throughout the year, but at this point, we're still required. We just filed the recent ones for 2017 tax year, just finished those about a month ago.
And do any of the issues that were raised about the 2015 filing also relate to the 2016 or the 2017 filing, or are the issues that they raised only related to 2015?
It's just 2015. That can show you how far behind they are and just how complex this reporting is. We have not received anything outside of the 15 reporting year. That would be in a separate notice. At this point, it's just for 15.
Okay.
Further questions? Mr. McAleer?
Holly, did they, Oswald, help us with the filing in 2015, for the 2015 filing? Did they help assist the county in that filing?
Oswald did not. This is actually out of the scope of their contract. So we actually engage a reporting agency that helps us with our 1095s. In tax year 2015, it was the first year we had engaged an entity. We have since then changed companies. We only use that company for 1 year.
Do you know if it turns out there is an issue, is there anything that we have to be able to go back to that company that the county hired in 15 to do that filing?
So what the response requires is that there's a form that we fill out, and then we provide them with the data to show that we'd feel that we were compliant. So as long as we provide that data and response, there's nothing that needs refiled per se. We just have to submit them with the reports, and then they correct it on their end.
So do you think are there any fines or fees or anything associated if it is determined that we weren't in compliance?
If we are not in compliance with the requirements, there would be fines potentially for the county.
Okay, that's what I was referring to, if we can go back to the company that.
It doesn't, just if I can, it doesn't look like, from what I'm advised, I'm not an expert, that we have any problem. If we did, we would look at the legal side of things, yes.
And with that, the non-compliance would be on the county's part, not the reporting entity's part. So if there's an error in reporting, it's just like filing taxes, you correct the error, there's no fine. The fine is for how we offer benefits. So again, it depends, but it's not likely that this would come back on that consultant. But at this point in time with our investigation, it just appears there was an error in the report. We're going to provide them the data to show that we were compliant.
Sure.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Baker.
Thank you. If there's a recognized error in the report and it just takes an amendment to clarify it, why isn't it that we can't handle that ourselves and that we need to hire out a consultant to work through that for us?
Sure. So the 1094, 1095 process in the whole is pretty complex. So what this contract entails is that Oswald will take all of the data and evaluate all of the information and assist us with the response. So they would actually help us engaging with the IRS. So if the IRS reviews all that data, has questions, requires additional follow-up, the Oswald will assist us with that process. Our goal is to close this as quickly as possible. Again, we do feel we're compliant, but they're going to handle us with all the data collection, responding, any additional appeals that may be needed. And because we know this is complex and it's the first time we've dealt with that, we want to make sure that we handle it successfully and promptly.
So it's really more than just an error in the report. You're concerned that it could lead to other things and that the entire scope of the report needs to be reviewed?
No, so it does come down to an error in the report, but because there was an error, they start looking at a lot of things. So for example, to put it very simply, every individual gets a 1095 that they use for their tax reporting. And then we file a 1094 that gives an overview to the government. The 1094 said, did you provide the required coverage all 12 months? Yes. And then for each month it said no. So it gave conflicting information. We did provide it for all 12 months, but because they need to look at that, we now have to supply them with a lot of data to show them that we did. And we want to make sure that data is succinct and a thorough package. So that's it. Takes a little bit more to respond, but it's simply just showing them, here's all the backup data to show that, yes, we did offer the data or offer the coverage.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2018-249, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a master contract with various providers for sex offender assessment and treatment services. And it's for the period July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2019, to modify the scope of services by removing the provider, the Mokita Center LLC, effective July 1st, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $105,000.
Good morning, Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. This is just an amendment to add in our second year funding for our master contract for sex offender services. We are also removing the vendor, the Mokita Center, because the woman that runs that program, she has since retired. So that is the only reason why they're being removed. We do plan to issue an RFP for this service later on this year.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker?
So does the funding get divided among the two that are left, or will you reserve funding for the RFP that will be going out to replace the Mokita?
The funding listed here is broken up between the two vendors that are left.
If I may follow? Then we can expect that you'll be coming back for more for the third vendor?
No, we removed the third vendor. She's completely gone.
And will you replace that vendor?
The hope is that we'll get a new vendor when we RFP for this.
Right.
We'll probably issue that September or October this year. So we're hoping to have more than just two vendors to provide services at that time.
If I may, with additional funding needed.
Maybe, yes.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-250, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a contract with Ohio Guidestone for high-fidelity wraparound case management services. And it's for the period September 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $90,000.
Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. This is a contract with Ohio Guidestone for high fidelity wraparound, and it's part of our competitive reclaim grant that we were awarded last year. This will be for year 2 of a 3-year grant term. So this is just adding in the dollars for the next year, as well as extending it out 1 more year. After that, we should have 1 more year of funding.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
Why is the second year less than a full year?
It's a 1 year extension from July 1st of 2018 through June 30th of 2019.
Why was the current year less? It said 9/1/17 to 6/30/2018. Why was that less than a full year?
By the time we got our grant notification and got our grant award, it took longer to get everything in place than originally anticipated.
And will we be able to provide a full year worth of services in the first year?
No.
No. So does that mean some money will be carried over into the second year?
There will definitely be money carried over. This contract serves 2 populations. One population is our home detention youth, and another population is our diversion youth. And I know to get the program up and running also took a little bit longer. Our home detention department has been referring youth quite a bit and have been spending down the money. The diversion youth, I believe, we've only had maybe 1 or 2 youth referred. It took our intake department a little bit longer to get some referrals and get things started for them. So we will definitely have money carried over.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2018-251, again, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a contract with Ohio Guidestone for mental health clinician services for the Community-Based Intervention Center. And it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2018, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $79,007.64.
Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. This is another contract that's associated with the competitive reclaim grant that we were awarded. So this is year 2 of the 3-year grant term. And Ohio Guidestone is providing a mental health clinician that is stationed specifically at our CBIC program, our Community-Based Intervention Center. The $79,000 is just for the 1-year salary of that individual.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-252, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 41406, which will result in an award recommendation to Center for Quality Legal Representation in Juvenile Proceedings in the amount not to exceed $39,533.30 for professional and technical services to design, develop, implement, and maintain a parent representation program. And it's for the period May 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2018. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. This is a pilot program that we were awarded grant funds for. It is our parent representation project. We have a nonprofit that's going to be assigning public defenders or private attorneys to our parents that are coming before the attention of the court for any custody cases and things of that nature. These attorneys that will be used for this pilot project are volunteers, so we're hoping to get about 5 to 10 volunteer attorneys for this specific project. The hope is that we can coordinate services so that we can get additional training for these specific attorneys that are part of this project. We can provide them with social work and law interns to support them and make sure that they have reasonable caseload sizes. We're also trying to ensure that the attorneys are assigned to the parents within 72 hours of the filing and that they stay with that parent through the entire case term. These attorneys will also be representing the parents outside of court hearings. So if there's a DCFS staffing or something of that nature, they will be able to attend that as well. For example, something that this could help us with is that right now the attorneys aren't assigned and don't meet with the families until the day of arraignment. This project will help ensure that the attorneys are assigned well before that and can start to meet with the parents and the families well beforehand to start to get a better handle on the cases before going to court.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller?
Why is this being done only for 5 months?
The nonprofit is brand new for this. They just became a nonprofit, and it took them a great deal of time to get together all of the required paperwork and insurance documents that they needed to contract with the county. It was originally supposed to have a January 1st term. However, here we are in asking for a May 1st start date because it took them quite a bit of time to get everything together that they needed to get together. We will be going back to the funder in July and requesting an extension so that we can have additional time to spend on the money.
Going to be asking for more money or just more time?
At this time, we're not 100% certain that there will be more funding that we could request. There's rumor that there could be additional funding, so we're hoping for that, and if there is, we will obviously apply for that as well.
Further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
RFP exemption, is this the only nonprofit that was considered?
Yes, they were written into this grant for this. And the woman that is going to be the actual coordinator for this new nonprofit, her name is Linda Julian, and she has worked with the court in past years trying to get a project like this up and running. So that was part of the reason why we went with her and the new nonprofit that they're starting. And I know that they started the new nonprofit so that they could look at fundraising and different things, so that even after our grant funding runs out, they will be able to continue providing services.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-253, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Terminex International, Inc. for bed bug extermination services, and it's for the period January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2018, to expand the scope of services effective May 1st, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $25,000.
Good morning, Bob Math with the Department of Health and Human Services. About a year and a half ago, on behalf of the Department of Senior and Adult Services, we issued an RFP for extermination services, and a contract was awarded to Terminex. Just recently, Department of Children and Family Services has indicated that they've been receiving a number of requests to provide extermination service for families that they're engaged with. So what we elected to do is just amend their existing contract and change the scope and include DCFS so they can access these services under this contract.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So these services are being extended to family homes,
Yes.
if I may. Has this never come up before?
It's my understanding, Councilwoman, that several years ago, DCFS had a contract with, I'm not sure if it was Terminex or another exterminating company, but apparently it was never utilized for whatever the reason. And all of a sudden, just recently, they realized that the service is needed, so we just decided to piggyback on this contract to make those services once again available. I trust the need was always there.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-254, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting amendments to contracts with various providers for Universal Pre-Kindergarten 1.0 services, and it's for the period August 1st, 2015 through July 31st, 2018, for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $390,947.25, effective January 1st, 2018, for various providers. A, Early Childhood Enrichment Center, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $92,557. B, with Kitty Child Care Community, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $43,479. C, with Horizon Education Centers, in the amount not to exceed $69,652.25. D, with Sandy's Darlin Munchkins Family Child Care and Universal Pre-Kindergarten, in the amount not to exceed $16,759. E, with Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $75,000. And F, with Cleveland Children's Daycare Academy, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $93,500.
Good morning. Dan Moss. I'm the program manager at Invest in Children. These are requests to increase the contract amounts for these programs. They ended up serving more children than we anticipated, so we had to increase their contracts to so they can continue to provide high quality child care.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So the date is effective January 1st. And we're now going into May. So how was this program continued during that time when we had this gap of?
Good question. Bob Stabe, Office of Early Childhood. This is last minute course correction. These are 3-year-old contracts, and it's never possible at the end of that period to accurately project how many children providers are going to serve. So what we did in order to fund these, we actually reduced a number of other provider contracts, and they were on your agenda, I don't know, last week or the week before that. So there hasn't been a cash flow issue, but we wanted to avoid that. So we worked with all of these providers, the ones that we were reducing and the ones we were increasing, to get an accurate projection of what they're going to spend. And then once we got it nailed down, got the amendments written, got them all signed, and are now presenting them to you. But none of the providers has suffered any cash flow issue.
So just so I understand, so the excess of dollars that weren't being used elsewhere was getting them through the program from January 1st till now, and now
Till July 31st
to July 31st of last year,
of 18.
of
I'm sorry.
18.
This July.
Okay, and then, okay, so there's an overlap.
Yeah, yeah. But it's completely neutral. In other words, it's all self-funded. There's no, it's money from existing UPK contracts, reducing some, increasing others. It's a net zero.
The total decrease amount is equal to the 390,947.25.
That's the difference of what's needed after the excess of dollars are used. You have that right?
Well, the contracts that are being decreased they're being decreased and given to the contracts that are being increased.
Right.
Right.
But this isn't a net. You're asking for 390,000 more.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't explain it well.
Okay.
So we have contracts with several dozen providers. Some of them have served more children than we anticipated. Some of them have served fewer.
Right.
Okay, so the ones who are serving fewer, we can tell now, between now and July 31st, they're not going to spend all the money that's encumbered in their contract.
Right.
So we've amended those contracts to reduce it. And you've had those amendments. They've
Right.
been before you already. Actually, there's one more on today's consent agenda. Once those contracts are amended to be reduced,
Right.
that's the $390,000. We then apply that to the
Okay.
other ones that are serving more children.
It is, yeah, and it's confusing as with this ask, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exemptions?
Next item, item number BC 2018-255, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an alternate procurement process which will result in payments to various providers for post-adoption special services subsidy passes, which consists of counseling, respite, and residential treatment services for the period April 15th, 2018 through April 14th, 2021.
Good morning, Daniel Bossa, speaking on behalf of Department of Health and Human Services. We're requesting that an extension of BC 2015-347, which was originally for 3 years for the post-adoption special services subsidy. Basically, this entails adoptive parents asking for financial assistance to cover special expenditures, including counseling, respite, residential treatment, as well as adoption fees. The adoptive parents basically select a provider. DCFS then goes ahead and pays for the services up front, and we are reimbursed 100% fully by the state to cover the expense.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
I may make my period here. Consent agenda. Please take a look at the items on the consent agenda, 256 to 260. And are there any what was that? Very good. Councilman Miller moves. I second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items on the consent agenda are approved.
Mr. Executive,
Miller.
regarding the, under other business, the item of note, the contract with Vox Mobile, my question is, is when this contract was scheduled to end if it were not for the termination that's provided for in this item.
Janelle Green for the Department of IT. This contract, I believe, was to the end of 2019 for Vox. I'm sorry, to the end of 2018, excuse me, for Vox.
And
We have our 30-day out.
and why is it being terminated early?
It was coming upon the Department of IT due to the investigation that's out and the lack of determination. We still need the services, so we're going to, per the Inspector General advice, we're going to cancel this contract and RFP for the services moving forward.
Okay.
I believe it was a recommendation from the IG. Yes, Mr. Macklin.
Mr. Chair, a technical question. Unless I missed an amendment, I thought in February of 2017, the original Board of Control item approved the Vox contract from January 1, 2017 through January, I think, 29th of 18. It was a one-year contract in the amount of 30.
It was 39,000 some odd dollars, of which we spent 38.7. But there were some dates that went into 19 from that contract. I don't have the specific dates on me right now, but I can forward that to you outside of this. But it did go into 18. Further into 18.
That was my issue in terms of the contract said something different. The contract had it for 2 years, but the Board of Control item only had it for 1 year. And I'm not sure under what. I know we're not voting on this, and I agree with the decision to part ways, but I'm just more from a administrative technical perspective, how the Board of Control item was only for 1 year, but the contract was signed for 2 years.
I do not know. I can pull that up. That was before my time to even look at that, but I can go and pull that up and give you that information outside of this meeting.
It could have been amended after the February date, but I couldn't find another Board of Control item that.
I think I've
it
only
wasn't.
seen
Okay.
the one item, but we can definitely pull that up and examine that.
Because to me, I think the authority right now is, it was only through January 29th of 18 where the legal authority allowed to even be in a contract with Vox. So,
Well, as far as I understand, the 39,000 or whatever the number was approved by the Board of Control, and we paid less than that slightly, so.
Correct.
But I understand what you're saying.
I think the contract doubles that, the actual contract had it
Yes.
for 2 years for
Yes,
$76,000.
$75,000 for 2 years. That was in the contract, but we only ever did for and paid out the services for 1 year for the $38,700.
That's my question, though, is how the contract could be signed for a different amount and for a second year when there wasn't approval.
We can look at that because I don't know if it maybe wasn't an error, but we can look at that and investigate that again outside of the meeting.
We have other business?
Yes, we do.
I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to handle the other business. Thank you all.
You want to go ahead and read this?
Right, this is an additional item. It is not a mission critical item. And we are amending board approval number BC 2018-207, dated April 2nd, 2018, which authorized an alternate procurement process for the bidding, awarding, and purchase of various building supplies to be used by the Cleveland Police Department and various other capital projects. The alternate procurement originally resulted in up to 8 separate awards, but it will now be 8 separate requisitions covering various material, commodities, and resulting in up to 8 separate contracts, which again has been changed to requisitions. We're adding additional language, which is 1, release bids through the BuySpeed software system to vendors already registered in commodity, NIGP codes, and email bid packages to vendors identified on the plan holders list. And B, the second additional language will be the bids released under this process will be open for bid for 10 business days and result in not to exceed contracts, which will be purchase orders for a period up to 2 years.
Good morning, Tom Patterson, Public Works. We're just looking to amend back on April 2nd, we came to the board, dedicated to certain place. bids and 8 separate contracts. Different than we did the previous time. Looking to amend that resolution to 3 changes. We worked with Lenore Lockett and Rich Oak tight schedules, that's why we're walking this item on. The 3 changes we made was it's going to be 8 separate requisitions. We identified 8 separate contracts, but we want to make sure that it's going to be 8 separate requisitions bid and contract that we release. The second piece that we with the Lenore on is OPD is actually going to release the bids. Originally on April 2nd, we came to board. How it works, we release the bids. Third change is it's going to be open for 10 business days. In which, amending those 3 pieces of language ahead, this
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. The importance of the 8 separate contracts is that in aggregate, the total will be over 500,000, but the intent is for each of the awards to come to the Board of Control for approval. And that's basically, in accordance with county code, an exemption from aggregation for that.
They'll be released. We got 2 that were submitted like the last week, so we're police project is we're pushing forward. We're identifying additional pieces that we need to do that. Those are the first 2 that we push forward and make additional bids.
Questions? I have one. Can we put a, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Councilman.
What's the significance of calling it a requisition as opposed to a contract?
I'll try to answer one or anything add to that. There's going to be this is going to result up to 8 contracts. I don't want to state 8 contracts, but the requisitions, from my experience with OPD and coming from there, that's an identifier. So every type, whether it's a DO, PO, contract, everything starts with requisition. Tracking mechanisms by requisition. I track public utilities by requisition. Will result in 8 requisitions. Will result.
So this
Lenore
is
Lockett, oh, go ahead.
So this is a technical change as opposed to that you're.
All 3 of these are technical.
So you're not doing. You're not proposing to do it differently. It's only a technical change, changing the way it's described.
Yes.
Okay.
And Lenore Lockett, the purpose was to clarify in the county code, it states that if you issue a RFP or RFQ and do multiple awards, then the aggregate total is what will determine which body approves those awards. So if you did a contract, RFP that had $1 million in total awards, but there were 10 awards and each of those contracts were 100,000, because the total for that RFP in determining which body was $1 million, the total of the awards, then all of those contracts as they came in individually would still need to go to the county council unless you received an exemption from aggregation.
So is there going to be an exemption from aggregation
That's
included?
what the presentation is today, to clarify that alternate procurement, that there was an understanding among the voting members that alternate procurement included each of those awards being issued under a separate RFP, although for one project. And that thus each contract will be individually voted on, and the body for that contract to vote to approve that contract will be determined by that contract's value, not the aggregate amount of all of the contracts issued under the alternate procurement.
And two, when we presented this 3 weeks ago, sorry, it was always our intent to do one requisition, one contract. But when we met, we were going through this, and we felt we might as well clarify the record in case someone misunderstood that wasn't our intention. But we always intended to do one rec, one contract. What Lenore is saying is we could have done one rec and then multiple contracts, but that was not our intention.
So this revision that we're voting on today, does part of this revision say that say that there's an exemption from aggregation.
Yes.
Does. And I would like to make a motion that we add this item to today's agenda.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, so the item is added to the agenda. Andrea?
Yes, it has been.
Go ahead.
It would be separate from this item, but it's my understanding that you want to advertise this week in the paper.
Glanced at Rich Overy's timeline, the intent was to advertise one, possibly two this week. That's why it's your action item. Ready.
And along that lines, the plain dealer ads are coming in over 500, which means they need to have prior approval. So if you want to advertise in the plain dealer this week, we need authority to place that ad. Even though you're exempt from a procurement process, you still need prior approval. So are you asking for that?
Could I do a mission critical then, Lenore, next Monday, if we find out they do come over? Is that a viable option as well? I mean, that's part of the reason we have it.
Mr. Chair, I don't know, I mean, we could do that, but we know approximately what the cost is. If it's okay with the rest of the board, if we could add it today versus, because we know we need it.
I know,
And it's part of the process. I mean, so I don't know what we want to estimate the plain dealer at, but 800. So times 8, or is it only one? I'm sorry.
One advertisement. Are you going to do 8 of them?
No, two. Did two sets of data.
Oh, that's right. He did, this week he did the plumbing, and so it'll be one for 2 separate ads for 800 each.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to add to the agenda $1,600 for Public Works to advertise in the plain dealer.
Is a separate item or an amendment to the same item?
It would have to be a separate item.
Okay. We need to take that.
Okay, so we have a motion to add
Oh, well,
that.
do you want to do it after we finish your first motion?
We have to approve the first one.
Okay, so we'll go back to the
I'm sorry.
first motion. That was already approved though, correct?
Just to add.
Just to add it to the agenda. Okay, so then we need a motion for that to be
Dennis,
approved.
if I may ask just a question before we pass this. One of the 3 listings was you were changing it from Public Works, releasing the bids to the OPD. That's right. And why is that?
Originally, we were going to release it. Formal bid has to be released by.
I'm just asking, that these are for construction services, plumbing services, electrical,
The two that we identified to start with was plumbing.
and OPD has the knowledge and, I mean, is that something that they typically do?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. For all formal bids and RFPs and RFQs, they are issued by the Office of Procurement and Diversity. To your point about the technical expertise, the departments are the experts on the technicalities of what they're looking for. So there's always been a combined team effort. They provide the technical requirements,
Right.
and we do the administrative process for the issuing of all formal bids and RFQs.
Will Public Works and OPD be, if I understood you correctly, working together then on? Right. I would think you would need to. All right.
So a lot of this starts with the tradesmen as an expert.
Right. Right.
We compile it into an actual specification package.
Okay. Thank you.
Go And one other thing, when you get to the contract point, I would like to see those contracts before they get finalized in case we have to add some.
These bids, when they're released, we actually develop a contract. Contract is, I won't say pre-written, but technically it is.
Well, I want to make sure the contract has a provision that we're not paying for items that were ordered prior to the contract being in place. Okay, so where are we?
I think we still have
We
to
need
vote
a
on the.
motion to approve the item.
So we need a motion to approve the item. Moved by Mr. McAleer,
All in favor?
Oh, I'll second.
second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item passes, then we need a separate motion for the advertising.
Yeah, I would move to add another item for the plain dealer purchase of two,
$1,600
$1,600 to,
for legal services, for the purchase of various materials, commodities, and supplies for the Cleveland Police Headquarters and other various capital projects.
It's a total not to exceed $1,600, is that correct?
Yes.
sounds perfect. So moved. I'll move for that.
Moved by Mr. McElroy,
To the agenda, is that correct?
Correct.
I'll second.
seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item's added to the agenda. Any further discussion on the item? So I will move for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. To approve, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Is any other business?
No
for
other
the Border
business at this
Patrol?
time.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
By Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
All right.